Minglava to all of you. This is the People Goals Road to Opinion program. Today topic is about what and where the CDM policy. Very recently, the National Consultative Council issued the CDM policy for the public eyes. The NUCC's CDM policy includes the many characteristics regarding the civil disobedience movement issues. So there are various chapters and and provisions in the CDM policies. And we have diverse opinions regarding the concept of CDM based on diverse sectors. So in terms of the impacts of the policy on the CDMRs and non-CDMRs and the future impacts of the CDMs are everything that we have as diverse opinions. For this, we will have panelists together with us in order to discuss with us all these different opinions. We have Cô Naung, the executive committee member of the BWS, Htut, freedom fighter, and Mayumi-san, the CDM employee. And I also would like to invite public audience to participate in the discussion by writing them in the chat box or raise your hand when we have the Q&A session so that we will invite you for all the discussion that we will have. I would like to invite Cô Naung for as the first speaker. Minglava Cô Naung Cho. Cô Naung Cho, would you introduce yourself, please? Minglava to all of you. My name is Naung Cho. I am one of the CDM employee. I was from education sector. At this moment, I am also the member of the executive committee, member of the education sector strike committee, and as well as education sector union. Now, I would like to invite Mayumi-san for your introduction. Thank you. Minglawa to all of you. My name is Yumi-san. I am the CDM employee. In this revolution, I engage and participate in this momentum in various forms. Now, I would like to invite Go Yeta. Would you please introduce yourself? Minglao to all of you. My name is Yeta. I served as the moderator in this public goal conversation. Now I'm serving as the speaker, the panelist for the time being in this program. I participated in the training of the Freedom Fighter organization. I am very glad and I am very happy to be part of the discussion today. Now I would like to begin our conversation first. I would like to ask you, Go Naung Cho. January 20 was the date that NUCC issued the CDM policy. What is the objective of this CDM policy? And what is your opinion regarding the issue of this CDM policy by the NUCC? Thank you. So first of all, I would like to say that this CDM policy is, of course, the policy paper. Well, to be precise, this CDM policy is strictly about the civil service CDM policy paper. But in this country, we do have quite a lot of CDM in various sectors. We have student CDMs and we have worker CDMs, and but the CDM policy that has just been issued has the coverage for the civil service. So this was explicitly mentioned in the policy itself as well. So I would like to stress your attention that this NUCC CDM policy, it's only for the civil disobedient movement of the civil services. And in terms of the different opinions on this policy, there are many conversations happening as well. And this policy, it's the development of the GCC CDM, which is part of the NUCC as well. I do think that this CDM policy, it's issued in the very much relevant time, in a very needing time. Whenever we talked about CDM, we also have to talk about the non-CDM. The CDM and non-CDM is very much like the black and white, the light and the dark, the right and the wrong. So how are we going to deal with them? It's something that we need to have a proper policy. If there is no proper policy, people will act whatever they think that they should act. Then there would be a lot of conflict, there would be a lot of friction. But then, since we have this policy will leave us as a very guiding instrument for us how to behave, how to deal with things. In this NUCC CDM policy, the CDM issue can be addressed in various locality in accordance with the law. So this is the time that we need this kind of policies as well. After the staging of the coup, there were all sort of measures being talking about, and there were all sort of conversation how to do with the CDM, what kind of support to be given to the CDM. But then again, nothing concretely happened. But then having this struggle these days, the CDM movement got less attention these days. So this is the moment that the morale support and morale strength, it's what is in need of the CDMRs. People participating in the CDM are there for their own commitment, for their own belief, and for their own idea. It is not that they are being cheated to be in the CDM movement. So it's very important that we need to support them as well. We hope that the civil service CDM policy it's out there in the right time, and I do hope that there will be other type of CDM policy coming up soon. We do have the student CDMRs, and I think that the student CDMR policy will be available out there, and we also have the private sector employee CDMRs. They need to have a policies as well, and we also have the political CDM as well. And these are everything that are all very important in this CDM. And this CDM is a very new form of struggle, with, and this is very much broad in its coverage. So having all this diverse different groups in the CDMRs, we need to have the diverse policy under the umbrella of the CDM. We need to have, for example, the police CDM, soldiers CDM policies. Again, this CDM policy for us,
မူဝါဒအား
it's
ဖြင့်အာမခံ
very
ချက်တစ်ခုခုအနေ
much
နဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့
encouraging. We are very much encouraged. And as I mentioned, this CDM
ဆွေးနွေးချင်
policy
ပါတယ်ကျေးဇူးပါဗျ
is issued in the right time when everyone is in need of any particular kind of support. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing the objective of the CDM policy and as well as opinion. Now I would like to invite Yumi-san. I would like to ask you a particular question. This CDM policy is developed by the JCC CDM. What is your expectation out of this policy? And I also have another question. There are penalization mentioned for the non-CDM. What is your opinion about that? And what could happen as well for in the future? Please let us hear your opinion. Thank you. At the very beginning of the CDM movement, we faced all sorts of struggle, the trauma, the sacrifices, loss of life can be redressed, in my opinion, by this CDM policy. The brutality, the loss of life, the time wasted in the in the prison, and all the grievances are required to earn the justice. And I hope that this policy will address that. As the previous speaker mentioned, when there is light, there is darkness on the other hand. When we talked about CDM, non-CDM is there. So it is inevitable to talk about the non-CDM. After the revolution, the new government then would have to address the issue of the CDM and as well as to deal with the non-CDM as well. The people elected government for the future then will do its measure and actions with justice. That's what I believe. But we do not mean to penalize every non-CDM. But there should be consequences for the non-CDM. We as the CDM, with our own heart and mind, we pursue our journey. So the non-CDM also have to know this phenomenon for them as well. The non-CDM are under the military dictatorship that is committing all sorts of crimes. In order for the crimes to be conducted by the military dictatorship, the non-CDM are contributing into it. This is the consequences that they have to, this is the responsibility that they have to bear as well. This is what I anticipate that it would happen in the future. Well, in terms of its consequences of this policy, it is still very early days to mention about what would be the concrete action or impact on the non-CDMRs, because we are having this CDM policy for the public views at this moment only. So I will not anticipate what would be the concrete impact. I will save it for later. Thank you very much. Now, thank you very much for your contribution. Next, I would like to invite Goyeted. You are the member of the Freedom Fighter and as well as taking part in the training. We have the civil disobedience movement. What is the essence of this? Would you please explain that? And another thing that I would like to ask you is your opinion on this NUCC's CDM policy. Thank you. I will discuss as much as I understand in terms of the meaning of the CDM. Well, to begin with, CDM started in for the first time in Myanmar Spring Revolution, but the CDM is a phenomenon very much common and famous out there around the countries. Mahatma Gandhi of India used it, and this is the phenomenon also observed in America as well. In a particular situation, there might be law, there might be orders, there might be government which is not correct, which cannot be correct, which cannot be right, which cannot be fair. So in that case, it is the duty of a public to revolt them. So this is the meaning of the CDM. The Gandhi's salt struggle in South Africa and going to the restaurant that would accept only for the whites, the black would go there. So this kind of action are the actions of the CDM. Again, when it comes to the CDM, there are 3 points
ဒုတိယအဆင့်ကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဖီဆန်ထားတဲ့အရာတွေကို
to oppose the unfair law and advocate the public about this unfair law. And another thing is that to persist or the oppression, suppression of the actions of the CDM. So these are the very 3 strong features of the CDM movement. So there are many successful example of the CDM after persisting all the unfair law. But Myanmar CDM, it's happened very unexpectedly, I would say. Almost 2 years in this revolution, we have this CDM. This is a very critical time. Before the issue of the CDM, it is very difficult for us to talk about the CDM because the CDM that we have is the collective movement of all the committed CDM individuals. Now, we have this CDM policy, and due to the CDM policy, we got this opportunity and this chance to look at the CDM in a very much institutional perception. Another thing that I would like to talk about is the nature of the CDM. In the revolution history of Myanmar, we have to acknowledge all the sacrifices, loss of life. There are hardly the words to to command all the sacrifices, hardship that the CDMRs bear in this revolution. But then again, let me try to come up with some of my opinion in terms of this CDM. For the freedom fighter organization, there were study paper that it's available based on this CDM policy. CDM, it's the public approach, non-violence approach. So we really have to think of the public approach. This is the phenomenon cannot be controlled or cannot be influenced by only the political party. The start of the CDM is the collective engagement of the public. So then again, it is very important to make sure that this CDM struggle or this CDM movement is not to be taken ownership by NUG or NUCC or the political party. Otherwise, this CDM public-owned movement will be treated as the ownership of the particular institution. Then the channel or the space for the CDM for everyone will be very much limited. The nature of the public movement require public participation, public mobilization. So otherwise, if this CDM movement will be taken as the ownership of, for example, a political party, then this CDM will be politicized. This is something that we have to be very much sensitive and careful about. And another thing is that the CDM is not there just to stop the mechanism of the SAC. CDM has greater and broader aspect. The very much principle and purpose of the CDM, it's for the member of the public to oppose all the unfair treatment. So in the very beginning of the time, there were the CDM movement campaigning that the bank employee not to go to the bank. But then again, it is very important that we need to see the CDM as with a greater view. Otherwise, CDM will be treated as the hijacked instrument of any of the organizations or institutions for their own agenda. Another thing that I would like to talk about is that the non-CDMRs and the non-CDM will be penalized. That is how it is written in this non-CDM policy. For that, I would like to say why they include this kind of provision in this policy. Of course, when somebody is doing wrong thing, then the wrong action would require to take accountability and responsibility. This has to do with the judiciary. This has to do with the law. So rather than penalizing due to your identity. In that case, non-CDM, it's the identity as well, rather than targeting a particular identity or a particular group for the penalization. The penalization should be emphasized only on the behavior or actions or the conduct which is not in line with the law. And another thing is that having this sort of penalization clauses or provision mentioned in this policy may have the implication in terms of its meaning that there is the influence over the judiciary. Having this policy in the future federal direction, there might be confrontation, friction, and complication. I also would like to talk about another thing. The CDM movement lost the mobilization strategies or organizing strategy. What I'm trying to say is that in this policy, it's talk about only what would be the benefit of the non-C well, what would be the benefit of the CDM, what would be the penalization consequences of the non-CDMRs. But then again, there is no mention about the sustainability of the CDM movement. This CDM policy includes all sort of commitment or promises by the government. So we cannot say all the future, but at the same time we are suffering from all sort of difficulty, hardships on the ground. But then again, we know that people are in need of moral support, but we need to be concrete, we need to be pragmatic, we need to be realistic in terms of how to maintain this CDM movement. Since there is no mention about how to maintain this CDM movement in this policy, it sounds almost like that. Well, there is no need to do mobilizations for the CDM in the future. So then again, we really have to be realistic, and we really have to have bigger view for the future as well. Thank you very much. Now we have concluded the first round of the conversation. Dear audience, if you would like to ask any questions or any comment after following the conversations of all these three panelists, you may also make use of the Q&A boxes. Now, I would like to start the second round of the conversation. Now, I would like to invite Go Naung Cho. First, I would like to ask you what would be benefit that might be available for the CDM, and what would be the impact of the mobilization in the revolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Regarding the CDM movement, the way the movement goes in Myanmar is quite different. And the policy that came out is the CDM policy regarding the civil servant. So it is a very specific CDM policy. So it concerns only the civil servants in Myanmar. In addition, what I'd like to talk about is about the mechanism of civil service in Myanmar and why is such a CDM policy is needed. Because if you look at that mechanism of the civil servant in Myanmar, it has been under many years of military control. Myanmar has fallen under several military coups over the past, and every time that we had not been able to, clearly that establish such a mechanism, the education system has been destroyed by the military. It is always happening. So that mechanism of this service is merely broadening the brainwashing as well, like the training they provided for the civil servants are the trainings where they are brainwashing the civil servants, that where they want to ensure that there is a very common analogy they like to give it given an order to get some water, you cannot explain that there is no bucket or the bucket has a hole. You must get the water at any weekend. So in a way, in other words, the orders must flow at any cost, and that the end justify the means. So what happened is that in the 1988 there was a demonstration from civil servants, but then again they joined in after months. It ends, but this Spring Revolution, it has been incredible. We are seeing that civil service standing strong for years. They're standing strong for what they believe in, and that resilience is something that is to say that that we know we're not going to say that we are very proud of them resisting it for the suffering, and that we are just not saying we are proud of them who do it, but they are standing strong, remain committed because they believe in the cause, because they are committed to the cause, and that's why in recognition of such commitment, resilience that the CDM policy did. I also have mentioned the CDM policy alone is not enough. There are also areas that needed as well, but CDM movement, it is about that is also about opposing that oppression against as well. The most important in CDM is not engaging with the military hunter, and also is opposing the order as well. That they don't work with the military, they don't follow the orders of the military. They are in a way doing the disobedience movement through non-violent way in a peaceful manner as well. They don't go to office, they don't go to work, they don't go to school. There are various CDM activists, that there is also the ideology as well, because people understand wrong, and that the culture of the civil service in Myanmar is you have to follow follow your superiors blindly, and that is also what is we are reporting against as well. And that and a lot of people often say that as well, in the Spring Revolution as well as in the previous movement, military also had done that in such a way to destroy from the inside. They will join the movement. But then the CDM have been very clear. CDM has been very open and say we join the CDM. Say no as well. I'm not talking here about we have watermelons or the military who supported the movement, although they are still inside the military. You're not talking about the watermelon. CDMs are very open. CDMs are very clear, and then they say they oppose the military. After 1988, there were teachers who opposed against the military regime after 1988, but there were only a handful, maybe 5 or 6 over the year. But what happened to them? In the end, they have to fall back. And they have to they may have thought that they would fight against the system, but in the end, they just end up in safe. They just end up in this the horrible system, and that they just end up under the horrible military rule and the system as well. So here, the CDM has chosen their position. They have chosen their stance. They stand strongly by what they believe in. So what is the case? We need to discuss what is the impact of this CDM policy for the civil servant. This is a policy, and policy is just a policy. Policy, nothing can be implemented immediately. There is no immediate impact because this law need to be transformed in this policy and transformed into a law. This is a policy stating the position of the government, which can then be used as space to turn into a law, which will also be, and also is in the full better positions declared by the NUC as well. You need to enact law, and the laws also need to be entered into rules and regulations which can be implemented. So that as a policy, you cannot take legal action against the non-CDM or those violate the rules as well. Another point about the civil servant is that is the situation of them in Myanmar, because it is important to have a CDM policy in response to that. Because which are the laws can we take to take legal action against the civil servants if we look at what is happening, or that those CDMR has been taken actions against them by the use of civil servant law. That if we look at the service law, then we need something to counter that, and that's the role this CDM policy intends to fail as well. Your CDM policy so clearly that the revolutionary frontline, the revolutionary leaders have a responsibility to stand by the CDMRs, to protect them, to provide protection to them, to provide the assistance. We need to take them into consideration for the sacrifice they have made and they are making. And that's why These are the reasons, part of the reasons why CDM policy has not. And I agree with Boyete. I support him that the CDM policy should not be for a group. It should not be the CDM movement should not be considered as a movement because under certain leadership or certain position. No, if you ask a CDM teachers or the CDM professionals, then they are not here. They do not join the CDM movement because they are being followed by one party or one group. If it is like that, they will continue being CDM itself. If they are being mobilized by certain organization or certain individual, it will not last for a long time. But they are here because of the commitment and because of the cause they have. And that's why we're standing strong here as a CDMers. So it is important that it is important to promote the role of the CDM. It's important to acknowledge the role of the CDM movement. It's important to consider about the situation of the CDMers and also to promote the movement as well. It is also important to recognize that all the revolution leaders from various perspectives need to recognize the CDM. Now that the Myanmar Spring Revolution had to transform into the armed resistance, we cannot leave the CDM behind. Some of the leaders have always have claimed before that CDM is a pillar of the revolution, but now CDM, some of the leaders are merely referring to the CDM as a force in the revolution. No, CDM still is a pillar of the revolution. This is what I believe in. It is important to strengthen it is important to strengthen this pillar of the revolution. It is important to mobilize more. It is important to promote it. It is important to encourage more of a broad-based participation in the CDM message. This is my perspective, in fact, that it is also important that, this mobilization could be a way to strengthen the unit as well. We already have the civil servants who are joining the CDM movement. It is important to remain, to maintain them, the strong participation and involvement as well. It is also important to think about how can we convince others to join our side? How do we sustain this CDM movement? This is important because CDM movement still, if you consider CDM movement as still an important pillar of the revolution, it is important to think about strengthening it as well as broadening it. Thank you, yeah, for your comprehensive answer. As you have described, the CDM movement has started this Spring Revolution. It's something we cannot deny. CDMers are important. They have been a pillar of the revolution, and the fact that CDM movement has stood strongly, withstood all the challenges, indicates clearly the importance of it as a pillar to this revolution. Now, I would like to give a turn to Siama Shubisa, so what will be what kind of benefits will there be for the CDMers thanks to this CDM policy? What kind of impact will there be on the revolution after looking at such policy? Thank you for your question. I would say that I can see the good points or the strengths of the CDM policy. For example, like in the CDM policy, there are 5 chapters. There are 5 chapters. In the chapters, it says very clearly about its CDMs that the part about what the CDMs need, as well as and it also said about the CDMs that grievances and as well, and it says very clearly that what are the CDMers and those are CDMers who have been imprisoned, who has physically maimed, or that who have lost their life, and they divide CDMers into different categories to provide reparation. In addition to that, in the constitution that they also want to include provisions as well as of the consideration of CDM in the constitution as well. So having the CDM policy, I think that's something we CDMers welcome because it really encourages, it really motivates us as well. And it is also that for the past 2 years since the coup, there was no guarantee for the CDMers, and we have no hopes. We did not have anything, but yet after 2 years of our resilience, this policy came out now after 2 years. It is like it is like a small ray of light for us in a way that it is important for us because people are surviving, struggling in various struggles. It is after suffering a lot, that for past 2 years, this policy, in a way, is giving us, encouragement as well. That and it may be a small, literally, it may be the more straw for us, but it gives us that satisfaction that our government is thinking about us, our leaders are thinking about us. That can also give us a chance to talk about it. We need to continue talking about how do we strengthen the CDM movement, as well as on how do we broaden the CDM movement. Yes, this CDM policy is a mere policy. Of course, it will need to be turned into laws and regulations, but rather than criticizing and then arguing about the CDM policy, we need to think about how do we strengthen the policy. How do we turn the policy into implementation? If we discuss this, I think it will even be better than the policy. Thank you for your answers, Yama. Now, before we give a turn to the last speaker, I would also like to welcome our audience and those who are joining on the Zoom, and also who are following us on the live streams. Please feel free to share your comments and your perspectives. You can share them on the chat. You can also use the Q&A function on Zoom, as well as on the comment as well. So that after I have asked questions to one of our speakers, we will then given also a chance to the participants to ask questions as well. So as the last speaker for the second round of questions, I would like to invite Kuyete once again. So Kuyete, you have mentioned about your perspective on the CDM policy, and I think freedom fighters also have issued a statement regarding the CDM policy recently. The current CDM policy, what is its impact on the mobilization of revolution journey? And as a non-violent activist, as a researcher looking into non-violence and CDM movement, what will be your recommendations to the CDM policy of the UCC? Thank you. So that I've been listening to other speakers, Naung Chu, Mayumi Sen. We have a lot of common grounds and agreements as well. I think it is also important to put them together, coordinate to make the most benefit of the policy, and I agree with it. What I would like to add to the discussion is that this is a CDM policy. It is a policy. Yes, it is need to be developed, to be implemented. This is just a policy. It is important for the NUCC to adopt it, and then it is important to end it into law. Who will end it into a law, and who will do that? Will it be the share page? Will be turned into law? This is something that will take time to develop into a law. So there's still a long way to go. Right now, it is like other speakers have said before, it is a straw. It is a straw for the CDMers who are literally drowning and suffering. It is a straw indeed. But this policy, and that the ideology that comes from the policy, in a way that maybe it could be the last straw that helps us, or it could be the last straw that broke us psychologically as well. So that, like Naung has said before, that it is important for all the CDMers to join the movement independently, and the CDM is not under any group or the under institution. But in the beginning of the CDM movement, if you would recall, there had been a lot of false hopes, like we're going to win this revolution in 2 weeks or 2 months, or there will be salary for the CDMers, there will be support for them. There had to be a lot of false hopes, and then there were also a lot of pressure from the social media. I'm not accusing people of it. There has been an impact like that as well. And that, when people join the CDM movement, people think that they become a CDM. If they join the CDM movement, they become a NUG, they become a civil servant. But no, there are people who are under the NUG, there are people who are not. And often is considered as elected as well. I think it was one of the speeches of Dr. Zhou, and that he has said that those who join the CDM movement late in the day will not be considered CDM, or there will be salary. It's not salary, but there will be support for it. So when they give salary, because NUG considered them as they are people, then there have been a lot of such such a statements, such as public speeches, all of that, there has been any kind of a countering or the debating argument, but they will always have always which is based on this concept as well, and that I think I think we should not hide it. We should not hide it and try to correct it. But I think it is important to highlight that this kind of also is not really helping the situation. This kind of claims are not, claims are not helping the situation. Civil servants are supposed to contribute to the civil service mechanism, and then the servants also need to focus on the country and the provide service. But no, that also is not the right way either, because we are now in the revolution. Revolution is not about revolting against an individual. It's about the system, about changing the political system, changing the political mechanism. Such that's the goal of the revolution. So in this, I think in a way that we need to continue doing this. We need to continue the same rhetoric narrative we about this. I think that's very dangerous. Right now, that the CDM policy to implement it, actually implement it, that's a very long process. It will be arduous, it will be difficult, it will also be very hard to imagine how this can be implemented. I'm sure the CDM also understand it, because this CDM have already has a basic previous revolution. So these are the political commitments. One thing will be realized when they implemented. It's hard to think about really, but it might be sort of psychologically a bit of inspirational, but again, to become a reality is another part as well, because if not, that limiting CDM into that's why using, if not, it will be hard to see CDM more than just legitimizing the political group or the institution or the in a revolution. It's important to look beyond the revolution. It is going to go beyond an individual. It's about the state of the system. Now, when we're talking about CDM, is that the CDM we are only CDM people and CDM actors, and that it is important to look at like a reservoir. How do we consider like CDM movement like water in the reservoir? How do we strengthen it? How do we ensure we have the strength behind? So what will the CDM do? And that we are saying no to the office, we are saying no to the school. Okay, that's it. By stopping by stopping our work or going to the office, does it help the revolution? How does it contribute to the revolution? So it is hard to also people to participate, because CDM, if the CDM is under a political institution or energy or the NGC, then it was that means that if you join the CDM, then they will be automatically considered as side as well. That would, so it because CDM and the civil servants are already divergent. So I think in the strategy thinking, it should be taken into consideration. How do we ensure that we can move forward without politicizing this, without politicizing but particular political priority? I think it is also important to change the framework. The framework should not be limited to CDM. Should be recognizing and promoting this in the broader sense without any kind of politicization. That let's consider CDM, right? CDM as individuals. Let's say we set a time limit. The CDM movement has closed the doors to the movement, and there are no longer new CDM. In that, if you were to go like that, the CDM will have enormous sacrifices. There will be oppression on the CDM people as well, and those on the ground, the rest will suffer alone. What are the impacts, and will it be effective? It's hard to say. Do you really believe it? That do the people who are doing the CDM movement, do they really believe that by closing the CDM movement, that will it have impact on it? Do the people, does the public really believe that? Okay, in terms of recognition, I would like to make 3 recommendations. One, CDM movement is a civilian movement. Civilian movement is a public movement. It comes from the people. It's not that of a political party. It should not be under the particular political influence of an institution or an organism. And it has to be meaningful. Not going to school, not going to office, not doing this, not doing that. It should be more meaningful than that. Myanmar is, you can say that, Myanmar movement is very different and Myanmar CDM is from others, but no, it is important to broaden the area of CDM as well, and they're just refusing to go to office or go to the school. It should be more than that. It should more have an impact on the CDM. So it is important to look the CDM more meaningful, and that is what the challenge we are facing now is when we look at it. We are not seeing CDM as a concept or ideology or a platform or a movement. People are seeing CDM, turning CDM into a group, that of a movement of a group. It is important to keep an open mind and open eye to broaden the movement, because it is important to remember that there has always been divide and conquer. CDM is not about divide and conquer. It's not undermining their democratic their workforces by trying to. The CDM is important to think about also CDM working together as well. The CDM policy should support the CDM. What will really support the CDM is the CDM. Different CDM do support each other, support to the people. The political commitment of a political party is nothing to nothing to put all our trust in. There has been in the past. What happened to the political commitments that they have made, and nobody has really held on to the commitment. There has not been any retraction. There hasn't been any apology for the force or the mismanaged situation. If they're without such recognition, without such public apology, then it is important. It is quite hard for us to put our trust in such political commitment. It is important to discuss things thoroughly and to look into a way how we can mobilize the public movement and go forward. Thank you, Koyete. It has been very interesting to know that it is. You have mentioned that CDM movement should be broadened. It should be beyond refusing to go to office, go to work, or go to school. That it is important to strengthen the CDM movement. It is important to rally people from all walks of life to join in the CDM movement, and that is an incredible recommendation. I have listened to you. Thank you. Now that we have taken the time with our speakers for their second round, that we had 2 rounds of speakers' contribution. Now we'll be going into the question and answer. Now, we'd like to first give the floor to one of our participants who has raised his hand, and then we will give a chance to go through the Q&As that has been with questions we have received as well. First of all, I would like to invite Kumpupa. So you have raised your hand, so please ask question. Thank you. So thank you to all the speakers and Koyete, and that the moderator Kunayu. Thank you very much, and also like to say thank you to the team of the People's School for organizing this talk show. That I'm a school teacher coming from the basic education, a CDM school teacher. In fact, in the general strikes, I participated as a peaceful protester as well. In the point that Koyete discussed, there are points I agree with Koyete. The CDM movement should not be under any political organization, and I agree with it, because right now wherever we are, I think if we say the CDM runs in any political organization or political actor, that is an insult to the movement itself. So yes, I agree with that. The point he has raised, a CDM movement should be independent. It should not be under any political institution. And also, and I would like to ask a question in response to what Koyete had discussed. In the beginning of the revolution, when we have a very strong movement from March, April, May, there has been a lot of people who joined the CDM movement, and that cannot be denied. The CDM movement has on very strongly. But there were also a lot of false hope as well. The false hope given. So there are people who joined more people joined the CDM movement because of the false hope. After 2 years of the revolution, people are, why do you think people who joined the movement with the false hope, are they still here? Do you think so? The false hopes. There are people who follow those false hopes. Well, when the military started, looking into their houses, who they are, and then they have already given up. They have already given up the CDM movement as well. That now that there is a CDM policy, and that CDM policy said that those there must be legal action taken at the non-CDMers. I think that's also that is a good response as well, because right now it is important to understand clearly between CDMers and non-CDMers. It's been 2 years of the revolution and the school now too also had discussed in this earlier as well, that it is important if you were to if the SSC were to take action against the CDMers but they use the civil service law to take action against us as well, then we must be able to take action against non-CDMs. I'm not talking about non-CDM per se, but those civil servants who are collaborating with the military, the corroborators, so to speak. They must be taking action against them for their collaboration with the military in the action of others' oppression. So that is something we need to have have a law on that as well. And that no, we don't consider them as all of them as non-CDM. So we have seen even in the police, there are a lot of watermelon who still remain in that under the military hunter, but they supported the revolution. There are watermelons everywhere. We're not talking about those every single non-CDM. But there are CDM, those who are in the civil servant, who are providing, who are betraying assets, who are sharing information about the teachers or other civil servant to the military and take action against them. Then we need to take action against them. We need to do that as well. We need to take legal action. Such people who are cooperating. That I agree. It's not about the cameras. That's the point I would like to raise. Another point is that it is the way that the CDMers or the strength of the CDMers is difficult. But other people, I mean that it seems that that also the question is, I also like to respond to where the question is that other people still supporting the CMRs. I would like to send the question back to Goyeta, because in education, for example, like our teachers who join the CDM movement, they are working on the physical schools on the ground in the areas where we have territorial control, and online for the CDM teachers. We have a lot of now online federal schools, and then the CDM teachers are working there as well. So that, what about the people? We have a lot of CDM teachers providing education. So what about the people? People are not supporting the CDM movement. Then I have to ask a question. The fact that we create federal schools, and in the federal school we have a strong number of students who are joining it, and that strength of people supporting the federal schools, that shows us that the CDMers are with the people are with the CDM. We are on the same side. We are very fluid, because the fact that we're able to fill these federal online schools, because the parents supported the movement, because of the public. So the CDM movements are not isolated, and the are not being left behind or no ignored. That the people are with the CDM movement, that they support the CDM movement. So that's what I would like to respond to one of the points we have raised, and I also like to listen to his reaction to that as well. First point I would like to raise is that in this revolution, CDMs play a very important role. Right now, NUCC has drafted a CDM policy for the civil servants. So in this CDM policy, there should also be other CDM policies, such as CDM policy for students, for the political parties, for the other private sector. There should be, a CDM as well. But then when we say CDM policy, the CDM policy and that civil servant and that of the other CDM policy cannot, mix into that, because as civil servants, that is for civil servant, that is our only profession, that is our only career. That some of the teachers who were killed in the CDM movement, they were 59 years old. They are almost there to get their pension by 60 years, but they make this decision. There are a lot of very senior CDM teachers who have joined the movement. So it is important to be recognized them clearly. So the CDM policy for civil servant is must good. It's a requisite for the revolution. We support it, recommend it, and we support, and a lot of people support it too. But it is all because CDM, because the civil service is different. We cannot put them on in the same bag as the CDM in general. So that's the one I would like to raise. Thank you. Thank you, Gumukha, for sharing. That I think the comments and the discussion have been taken note of as well, and that you have mentioned, and that the importance of the CDMs in the early part of the revolution. You also have asked questions about and asked comments on the points that you have raised, and that it is important to take action against the non-CDMers, legal action. You also support that as well. That's the second part of your raise. And thirdly, is also about a specific the CDM for civil servant as well. You also want to look at about the public support for that as well. That is a question to Goyeta. So maybe Goyeta will be able to give a very short and clear response to what Gumukha has shared. So Goyeta, you already have discussed comprehensively in your turn, so just focus on the points that have been raised by the our participant here. Thank you, Gumukha, for your discussion point. And that So yes, some of the points that has been raised is that already discussed as well. So I just want to try to respond to the other points as well. Yes, a CDM is as a group. It is important to recognize CDM as a movement. And that CDM movement needs to be independent, need to be remained remain independent to move as a public movement. It should not be under the political institution. It's important that CDM to remain strong. That's what the CDM to remain strongly committed and resilient. Depends, I would say, because the false hope. The false hope is that it's not the false hope was not only there in the beginning. There is false hopes every time. Everywhere you turn, there is false hope. There was also in the beginning. There was also in the beginning and the end of 2020. And there was at the end of 2022. It was there. There was also even in the 2023 as well. So that whenever we talk to a lot of the CDM girls, they say that in the early part of 2021, and that it is so to okay. So they say that we're going to win the revolution very soon. Next year will be win, and there will be independent education system. So there will be consideration for the independent education as well. So false hope is not just one of the. It's false hope. It's all has been used repetitively. It is important to look into accountability and only after the false hope that people have made as well. Some of the people are joining the CDM, still CDM, but it's also harder for them to join. Some of them are also quite discouraged and fed up with the CDM movement. But some people are still remaining strong to the CDM movement, where they are resilient. Or that then they should be. It's not just be about the resilience. There should be a way forward. How do we move beyond the resilience to make this movement stronger? That is something missing. Another point is about the non-CDMers giving information to the military, and that there are non-CDMers or any individual person. No, we're not talking about the CDM. Any person who is collaborating with the military by giving information about the military to take action against people, action must be taken. But it is not just about the CDM movement. In a way, when it becomes especially low, that it becomes less of a movement and more of a group as well. That it is about the CDM individual. It's like individual, a group or individual as well. It's no longer a paradigm shift. It's no longer a movement. So it is important they look into it. That's what I've been raising. That does not really help move forward as well. Because revolution is working on building a better future, better society for everyone. It's beyond that, beyond that particular group as well. Yes, action must be taken. Anyone who violated the human rights, who contributed to the military violation of human rights, there must be action taken. There must be evidence. There must be witnesses to be there as well. And that another point is about it is really encouraging to see CDM teachers working for the education. They are doing it digital. They are doing it digitally. They are also doing it in person schools in the territories controlled by them, in the control territories. Yes, it is good that teaching such teaching also. My question is teaching also considered as a part of the CDM movement, or that the other CDM teachers just doing their job? That and there's a CDM movement also include all the teaching and online teaching and all the federal school as well. Are they also part of the teaching movement as well, or just the CDM teachers work is that we only need to think this, because the way we are seeing it is that right now there has been a strong way of thinking of that not going to school, not going to office, not going to teach, not going to do is considered as a CDM. That's it. Your action. Then what is this? What constitutes the CDM movement? And what about the other, the private sector? Okay, they joined the CDM movement. They are not obeying they're not obeying the military orders. But then, what else can they do? What do they do next? It's something that need to be discussed thoroughly and then clarified. Thank you, Goyeta.
Thank you very much. Since we have a lot of the audience raising their hands and writing their comments, now I would like to invite next audience for their comment, but please do make sure um, that you keep and you make sure that you are straight to the points, since we have the time concern. And now we have GRC raising the hand. Please go ahead. I have 3 points to be made. First, I welcome the CDM policy. Second, I also would like to talk about the development of it. The third point is about the contents of the policy. I will try to make my point short and precise. First of all, I would like to salute and congratulate everyone participating in this CDM movement. In terms of the well, we have the impression that your internet connection is not good, but please do try again. I welcome this CDM policy. We have to brainstorm among ourselves first, I mean, um, right at this moment, rather than having all sort of conflicting idea after the revolution got wind. How I see is that we are having this policy and we are brainstorming ourselves these days, which is good as well. And I also would like to say that how in which everyone would participate in the CDN movement. Yes, it seems complicated, it seems not very clear. In that perspective, I would like to agree what all the inputs that Goyet had made. But anyway, we are on the same boat in this revolution. So having this kind of common ground, we can walk together as well. That is how I see it. Another thing that I would like to say is that this NUCC policy is developed by the NUCC. I am quite surprised as well because the thing is that this is something very surprising because NUCC take care of that. Another thing that I would like to say is about the contents of the CDM policy. After having the careful observation, there are a lot of good contents. The support of the CDMRs, the punishment of the non-CDMRs. Well, they are good. But then again, I would like to ask all the leaders, political leaders, that do they genuinely want to support the CDMRs? Because in this policy, there were all sort of awards, there were all sort of congratulatory actions, measures for the CDMRs, but only in the future by the new government. But then I was thinking, why? Why now? Why not now? I have some suspicion that are they having mouth service if they genuinely believe the contributions of the CDMRs. There are many things that they can do. There are many things that the leaders of these days can do a lot. I would like to say that whatever can be done right away are to be done. And in terms of punishments of the non-CDMR, with all the in line with all the rules and regulation, then of course that would, that could be done as well accordingly. But then again, in my opinion, in terms of the gender perspective, in terms of the human right perspective, these kind of contents seems not very much in the in this policy. But then again, in the future, we have to think very carefully about the correction measures for the non-CDMRs. We have to be very practical if it is feasible or not. And another thing is about the social punishment measures that is mentioned in the policy against the non-CDMR. I'm quite surprised why they have to put that kind of measures in that. And I also would like to say that the measures for the CDMRs in general seems not very concrete, not very significant, and they need to be much more meaningful, much more practical. Now, I would like to request that there are actions that can be done right away in order to support the CDMRs, and please do so. And now I would like to congratulate everyone participating in the CDM movement. Thank you. Thank you very much for your opinions. And you also mentioned about actions to support CDMRs, which can be done straight away, are to be done right away. Indeed, I also can hear your opinion on that. For this, I would like to ask Sia Naung Cho to reply or to comment on this perspective. The civil service CDM policy seeing this as a false hope? If this is your opinion, if I would be asked in that way, then I would ask the questionnaire to directly talk with the civil service CDMRs in terms of their opinion. Well, if you ask me to answer this, I don't see this as a false hope. This CDM policy is issued in the right time. This policy was developed in a very systematical way, in a very academic way. There were research conducted across the ministries. In the CDM, if you read it carefully, there is the link with the transitional justice processes. This revolution, it's building the new country. Building the new country, it's reforming all the systems, attitudes, and ideologies. We are having this constitutional crisis. Due to the 2008 constitutional crisis, we have this revolution. Due to the 2008 constitution, there were coup d'etat. So that's why we need a new constitution. We have to change everything every day, even in this revolution. There are things that we cannot put it. There are things we cannot park them until or after the revolution it's succeeded or concluded. So that's why we are having this CDM policy, because we are changing system, we are changing attitude, we are changing ideology. So that's why if somebody would say that, or if somebody would ask that, the CDM policy is a false hope, I would challenge that person to seek or ask the opinion of the CDM policy by the CDMR's civil service. Another thing that I would like to talk about is that this CDM's struggle, it's in need of the support. We get rid of our own normal life with our strong belief. We do revolution not because of anyone, not because of somebody, but because of the public. So that's why we need the support of the CDM. Without the support of the public, this CDM struggle will be a complete failure. It is the responsibilities and duties of each and every one to help assist the CDM struggle. Please ask yourself if you have your neighbor, what kind of help that you give to your neighbor if your neighbor is a CDMR, or mobilize your neighbor to talk about the engagement in this CDM struggle. Thank you very much. And now I would like to go through some of the comments in the chat boxes. The rights and the wrongs, it's to be explicit in this revolution. We support the idea of punishments of the non-CDMRs. We were the government staff, but we knew that the government did not contribute the development of the country, so that's why we stopped working for it. So it is very important that there needs to be explicit attitude between the rights and the wrongs, the CDMRs and the non-CDMRs. There is another comment as well. We cannot live under the oppression, but the oppression, it's supported and it's made functional by the non-CDMR. They had to bear the consequences as well. And there is another comment. There is a questions as well. So say, for example, if somebody do not want to join the peaceful demonstration, then again, would you penalize the individual who do not join in this peaceful demonstration? Because apparently that somebody who do not join the peaceful demonstration is the non-CDMR as well. There is a question. And I also have another comment. The Kenyan Minister Nan Kentremian promised that the CDMR will get promotion after the revolution is succeeded, and CDMRs are to be congratulated as the significant contributors in this revolution. And I also have another comment. Please do not take revenge on the non-CDMR. Please do not take them personally. If they don't commit any crime, please let them be who they are. So thank you for all this comment. Now I would like to invite those who raise their hand, but then again, please make sure you are short to the point. There is somebody with the name Georgie. Please go ahead. Thank you very much for giving me this chance for this discussion. Mingalaba to all of you. I am the CDMR from the basic education sector. We have the civil service we have the civil service CDM policy. Being the civil servant myself, I support completely on this policy. We participated in this movement. The stronger this movement would be, the more feasible the winning of this revolution, and the speedier for the winning of this revolution. So, if everyone would join the CDM, there will be not enough human resource to be replaced by the SAC for the government mechanisms. But the CDM, the missing resources in the current government mechanisms apparently can be replaced by the SAC. So that's why this revolution is getting longer that we are seeing these days. What I would like to say is that the CDMRs are persisting in our movement. There are health problems, there are financial problems. Amidst of all these family problems and social economical problems, we are trying to survive. We are trying to stand on our own feet. We do not put ourselves in any, we do not put ourselves under any of the institution, organization. We are in this movement not for the sake of the agenda of an institution or an organization, but for our own belief. The CDM doors, it's always to be opened for anyone who want to join in this. And of course, there are many non-CDMRs who cannot be convinced, who cannot be mobilized. If in the future would be benefit for the CDMRs in a very blanket measures among all the CDMRs, I don't think that it would be fair, because among the CDMR there are many various or different level of commitment. So all of these are to be verified for the benefit of the CDMR. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution. And I also would like to go through other comments. Since we have lots of comments, now I am trying to understand the comments that need to be read. I have two comments in particular that I would like to read. CDM is a movement. CDM seems personalized. Taking this as the personal matters, there would be discrimination. If there would be such kind of discrimination, the constructions of a future country can be very questionable. So this is what this comment said. Next comment, it's read as such. We need to have impactful measures for the CDMRs. According to 2017 census, there are over 900,000 government staffs. Can't they be mobilized? Can we organize them? And not every one of the non-CDMRs are the supporters of the military dictatorship. There are strong evidence that there are non-CDMRs supporting the revolution in their own way in various forms of participation, although they are seen as the non-CDMRs. Now, I would like to invite Htut for your remarks and comments. Thank you very much. Well, it seems as I was speaking too much today, but this is a very important matter, so that's why we need to have a very good conversation around that. There are concepts that we have to discuss in a very critical manner. So, talking about CDM movement in a very much personalized manner, then it would be very difficult concept. And between CDMRs and non-CDMRs, rather than personalize them, it is very important to look at if the non-CDMRs are committing some sort of crimes. Only then you would treat them accordingly as well. When it comes to the CDM, this CDM concept was taking very much narrow way, in my opinion, because whenever we talk about CDM, we talked about, not go to school, not go to bank, and but then again, anyone who participate in any form of revolting the regime, the dictator regime, should be seen as the CDMRs. A comment that I observed is that there is strong feeling of the CDMRs. Yes, you participate in this struggle, leaving your government employee life due to the coup d'etat. Then again, we feel very sorry for your grievances, and at the same time, we also have to look at the bigger picture. Across all the history, there are Rohingya issues, there are ethnic issues, and there are many unjust situations happened. We have to also reached about them. And we want to have a societal changes. And rather than blaming each other, we need to look at a bigger picture. And there was a moment that only certain window period was established for the non-CDMR to become the CDMR. And after that, the CDM door is closed for them. Then again, are they going to be penalized for that? At the same time, we know that people have very strong feeling for their sacrifices, but at the same time, there is this feeling of hate. There is this feeling of sentiment. I salute the CDMR. You lead the revolution. The pain are transformed as the collective energy. Your pain is to be transformed as an empathy. Those who lived in grievances all across the time, I would like to encourage you to transform the energy, to transform the pain into the energy in order to participate in this revolution. Now, I would like to invite another one, and please make sure that you are short to the point since we are going over the time a bit.
Facebook about
Thank you for the opportunity, and I have I'd like to say that that I'm here Uleji, but my name is Dr. Naung. I'm somebody who joined the jungle for the armed resistance in 1988. Now that we are talking about CDM, that issue, and I'm also somebody who is learning about the CDM, so that's why I'm here listening and learning from you. And based on that, I also would like to share some of my perspective as well. I joined the armed resistance in 1988. So in a way, I can say that I can also, gauge what is happening on the ground. One point I would like to raise here that please don't consider me like I'm supposed to know it all. I'm trying to, be condescending. No, non-violence movement has phases. The first phase of the non-violence movement is demonstration. Peaceful demonstration. Second is about refusing to engage, refusing to with orders. Thirdly, will be the coup, or the in a way that saying no to that as well, and that refusing that try to get the control of the management as well. So we have seen disobedience or the refusing to engage with the military have existed before it is in the Spring Revolution. It has existed before in the 1980s. So what we need to understand is that refusing to collaborate, refusing to cooperate is it can be long term, can also be short term as well. So that people go one down in the street demonstrate, and all of them for the short term they refuse to they refuse to collaborate with the military, to follow the orders or the CDMs. There are who call them the CDM, and they are here the announcements of the CDM and refuse it for the do again to military long run. That is the long term as well. They refuse, and they in a way they turn themselves into destroy the pillar of the enemy, and that these are the people who are very important for it. For me personally speaking, that rather than CDM, then I think I consider all these people as the revolution. They have joined the revolution. Then rather than the CDM activists, and when I see them as a part of the revolution, then it is important your turn to consider that we need to think about, okay, what about the people who are not the revolution? It is that how will we consider as enemies? I think now that whether we talk about the CDM policy or not, if you consider others as the pillars of the enemy, then we need their NUG or their know that the revolutionary forces will need to often have a clear policy on those who are who are not in the revolution. There are as well. There are, have you seen Manila or the military informants and that as well as there are people who are opposing like the voter list, and there is no policy where people are walking to oppose the military and so. So being part of the revolution, joining the revolution, or more than that, it is working it clearly in such a way to rather than thinking, like I said, no, I'm participating in the revolution. There's people who are supporting the enemy, supporting or contributing to the military in their acts as well. That yes, we understand the need to recognize the CDM and the encourage the media motivate the CDM. That's one part. The other, the reality is that the CDMs, that the teachers or the medical care professionals or from the Myanmar railways, all these are important people. And then how do we support them? And that how can we help them, support them? How do we help them? It is important. Yes, there are those who are not, that who are not mobilizing. How do we convince them? All these are important as well. That I think this is something the NUG should be working on and set the policy for. If we do that, if I say this, that it's not just be that we also have been supporting the CDM and the voters in any way I can. But if we look into the long run, that it is also important to focus on the revolutionary forces to be able to do their revolution properly. Second point is we also need to have a clear definition of what constitutes the pillars of the enemy. That rather than arguing on the side of some people as a CDM or no CDM, that's complicated. That's really complicated. So I think it is important to look into that, and that if we have a very clear better understanding, I think it will be good. That we should not confuse confuse the just CDM. CDM is not easy because it was just further complicated. So the look into it, how do we focus on the pillars of the enemy is one thing, and also how to provide assistance to those who are in the revolution. That's important. In short, people when we act in disobedience, it can be short term, but it could also be long term as well. So it is both. How do we strengthen the short term, that short and disobedient people into long term? How do we also strengthen them? How do we maintain that? How do we undermine the pillars of the enemy? And that and also we also need to think about the transitional period for the rebuilding of the state, and that if we that if we were to, there should be a very clear policy for that, the enemy pillars or the important senior officials who are supporting or collaborating military. There should be a clear policy on how do we deal with them for their support given to the military hunter. You see, for very clear analysis. It's also a very good point that has been raised this year. I would also like to take the time to contribute a little lesser. And I have also been reading them. When I try to read their comments, I'm also giving them people with different perspective, different opportunity to have people to have opportunity to give comment as well. And my comments, my selection of comments, we simply trying to bring in different voices as well and the different opinion as well. Before I give the floor to those who have raised their hand. So there's a point where he said that is taking the people to us actually the non-CDM or it's not about is that because of the decision that they have made to support the military, and that so I think it is important, and that but they are also those who who join the CDM, no CDM, just for self-interest as well. So there are also part of it is that some people say that we are so CDM about this as about the CDM, but people are becoming non-CDM issue is more sensitive. It's really surprising to see this as but what about the Mala and the fascist military has violated human rights? And that So that's why people are resisting against it as well. And it is that I think so the revolutionary should also not limit that, these people are entitled to human rights, these people are not. It should be according to the law. So it doesn't matter, no, these people can be taken at this individual or this group or that. It should be based on the act on the case as well. And then we are also seeing a lot of hands raised as well. I would like to now invite us, Agatha, to ask questions. And those, if you have already asked questions, I also request you to lower your hands so we can see that you have as well. Thank you for this opportunity. And a lot of people also have asked and discussed a lot. And there are a lot of points where we agree, and there are also points where we disagree as well. On the issue of CDM and no CDM, I think the issue is really broad, and that it will not end immediately, and then we can continue on and discuss further and further as well. But so far in the discussion that I've been listening to, what I've noticed is that I think we might need to put categories into the CDMs. I mean, there are people like agree, there are those who agree. We can generalize that by major two categories. Those who support that, that CDM must be supported and that there must be action against the non-CDM. Those who oppose it. So there are also a lot of emotions and as well as on the feelings involved. Some people are also saying that because it has always been the grievances and discrimination as well. Those people who are saying is you will need to understand the CDM policy. Have they read the CDM policy clearly? That the CDM policy is that I'm also a CDMer, CDM activist. So it is that it is not about the CDMers trying to avenge the non-CDM. This is not what the CDM policy about. And those who raise the point like argument like this, if you read the chapter 4 of the policy, I think it's very clear that what is it the way it's stated about that legal action will be taken for their contribution about this collaboration is very clear, and that but if we want to avenge all the non-CDM, they say all non-CDM must be dismissed from their job, must be arrested, must be killed. No, it's not about that. We're saying not all the non-CDMers. It is important that and I also understand that that we need a workforce. We need to their workforce to be able to fill the duty as well. And the community also said that as well. It depends on their action. What is important is that if they are collaborating with the military, then we need to have a clear criteria for their collaboration with the military. Either they are non-CDM, either whether they know it knowingly or not. If they become pillar of the enemy, if they become pillar of the hunter, then we have nothing to deny. We have nothing to refuse that. Their collaboration, their contribution to the military might be big, might be small, but it should be clear. It depends on their commitment. How do they extent they are participated? The action must be taken in proportionate to the action they have contributed to us. So it's not about revenge, it's not about avenging them for being on CDM. No, it is clear. So there are those who say no to the taken action. Why are they saying this policy is more for revenge of the CDM? And it's important for us to understand. I have to ask why the people who oppose the taking action against the non-CDMers, why are they taking this revenge perspective? I don't really understand why. Because if you read the policy clearly, it is very stated very clearly. So I don't know, as a CDMer, it's kind of hard to understand that. So, and a lot of people say that we must forgive. That it must be about the forgive in the future nation that we're do. It's a country of it's a nation of equality and the equal rights, and the non-CDMR should also be given equal rights, and we should all stay together, coexist. But that will make things worse as well. And that okay, let's say we take we take that action against CDMR. It could be like no promotion, or maybe like that we give them like a fine, or everything like this. Once they have gone through, once they have paid back for their participation, once there has been action taken against them, then we can work with them because they have paid for the mistake they have made. If not for because of the human rights, then everybody must be forgiven, and that forget, and we must and we need to work together with them. Then people will not be happy, and that it will become another problem as well. That's also is something we need to take into consideration. The last point I would like to, it's more of a question I want to raise. Those who are saying taking action against, are they also CDM or not? To what extent they know about the CDM as well? Because some of the things are, it's easy to say if you're not as well, because you can talk about the ideology, you can talk about the principles, you can also talk about the, human rights. It's easy to say, but they know how hard the CDM is. You can read books and you can say things like that as well, they know freely, but in some of the cases, know that it's more than the ideology, because it is know that if you look at all the from the human rights and the framework and all these policy, have you place yourself in our shoes and that of the CDMers and understand what we are going through, and that's what yourself. So my question is, who are they saying so? Those who are very strong saying no against it, about legalization against CDMR, where are they? Where do you come from? Have you put yourself in the shoes of the CDMers? I would like to just raise the point as well. Thank you for the question. I think I would like to give your question to Htut, because Htut will be able to share a very different perspective as well. So before Htut, we are also, time is also late. It's just that we are sorry, we are running late, so they will not be able to take more questions, and the comments and the question will be as well. I think we also hope that all of you will understand, because we are really short on time. Htut, you want to respond to the point as a closing point? Part of the discussion. Thank you. So when we discuss about this, we already are talking about this, about the CDM or no CDMs. And what I'm saying is that, it's not about the, trying to look at it from the different issues. But what we are saying is that I think what we are discussing is quite different. What we are trying to think about is more important. The point arguments you're raising for the CDM. Without any of the program for the future program for the CDMs, then there should not be given hopes that cannot be realized later. There are things that we can do that when we win the revolution, but we need to think about reality. We need to think about how we can move forward for the CDMs. That's what we are talking about as well. And that it's important to change the baseline. It's also think about the base of the communication about the revolution, because revolution is based on the revolutionary idea as well. It's not about human rights defenders are talking about this. No, when we say human rights, and that we cannot meet in the revolution status, we cannot meet the international standards of that we're talking that we have in other countries. But what is important is there are also standards that want, all the revolutionary forces that we want them, not because other people are saying. That's what I'm saying, is that we need to go beyond the group, beyond the individual, to see this importance of the human rights standards that we can have during this world. Then it will become the movement as well. And then there would, as a crisis, then it's not that people don't want to help, because what we can is that people are afraid to help us. If you help the CDM, then if you engage with the CDM, if you give houses, if you rent houses to the CDM, military can oppress. Why is it important? Why is it's so easy for the military to take action against those who are helping? Because the way they are successful in framing this as a CDM movement as under a political institution. It is important to change the movement as a public movement, independent movement. The CDM they're doing it, but right now what is happening is that when something happens, it's quite difficult to protect the CDMs. That all the CDMers have to go through that fear every day. They have no security, they have no safety. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm arguing about. It's important to go beyond the group of this group of that group of CDM or not CDM. It is important to look at the immediate future of the CDM. We're not talking about when the revolution is over and all the things we can do. So it is not just saying, okay, you're on their side or our side. No, it is important to establish CDM with a new concept, new thinking, that the CDM is an independent public movement as well. So thank you, Htut, for the point that you have raised, and that it has been incredible to see that as well. Rather than looking from the approach of this particular group, that particular group, it is important to think about building a movement that has an independent movement that has the public support in order to sustain and strengthen it. Has been an incredible recommendation that you have given us. So I also would like to read that a few of the comments as well, and so it is important. There was a question raised, like, has there been for the SLB support for the civil servant CDMs, as like the military CDM have received as well? and that there were also the one that is yes, we are talking about that it is okay. There are plans in the CDM policy to take action against non-CDM, but those who are also who didn't enjoy the CDM to just pause their play as well, and that so these are the comments that has been given. I think so. So I would like to invite Sima to respond to a few of these comments. Thank you. Can you ask the first question again? Sorry, my internet connection is not very good. The first point is, so that there has been support for the military CDMs. What about the civilian CDMs? Has there been support or plans to support that civilian CDMs? To respond to the first question, that for the civilian civilian, so there are no support like the military civilians as well, and on that as well, and that we are not. There is no grievances on that. Of course, if there are such support for the CDM, will even be happier. I think that will be. I hope that if there is support for them, support for the civilians to be very happy. So there was also another question is that not just taking action against a non-CDM, there are those who are focused on their own, their own safety, and that somebody who try to, get away from all those kind of very selfish and just, their own interests, kind of non-CDMers. Then we take them. But for me, those who try to, stay away from all this, avoid it. There are those who who get away is because they don't want to engage with the military. That those that there are people who don't have a reason, who don't have who have no other ways to do this non-CDM movement. They have a non-CDM as well. So I would say those who got away from all these will consider them a CDM or non-CDM, but they have no options. That it is important. Some of them they just quit the job because they don't want to become they don't want to remain in non-CDM. Maybe because they have no other options as well. So that's what I see is as well. So what about, this is a question like those people who apply for the resignation from the administration, can they consider as a non-CDM? That what about that if we're to give action, legal action against non-CDM, and then those, what about there was a major population who did it, we stand with this and we stand with that against the oppression of the ethnic minority as well. We see transitional justice. What about me for the victims? That everybody person who has perpetrated should be will there be standards or the punishment against them as well? Like village or what administrator, they're resigning themselves is that and that that themselves. I think it doesn't have to do with the CDM as well. That we have joined the CDM movement since the beginning of the revolution. That we don't want to be part of the military mechanism. So we get some salary. We get some salary in the beginning. If you look back on the beginning of the CDM movement, we get the salary. We took the salary, but we are refusing to do what the military orders to do. Refuse to be part of the military administrative mechanism. That's how we have acted before. But later on, we were dismissed. Right? It was much later on that we were dismissed, and that they used the civil servant law, and then they dismissed as well. I would say that we are very different. We are very different from them. But people who quit their jobs, they don't want to be non-CDM, they don't want to be the CDM. I welcome that, even if they do not have a political stand in particular. But the fact that they are not joining this, we welcome when we accept it. But we don't consider them as a CDM, because because of the it is that I think it's more of a there is no such thing as well, that they don't want joining with the same movement, and that they can no longer, maybe they no longer stay, so they have to quit. But no, what we say CDM is not just for quitting their job, because also there are also all the CDMers have also have applied for to be dismissed from the job as well, and that if you dismiss although that also there are also one thing is that people also resign from the job, because when you are a CDM, you'll not be arrested. If you submit your resignation, they cannot arrest you anymore because you have resigned as well. So what happened is right now we have like section 505 and then we have the section 50, and all this is quite different as well. Another question, may I could the moderator repeat the second question? The second question is that so the question was saying that if every non-CDM must be punished, then what about the population who had brand that we stand with against the oppression of the minorities in transitional justice? Every perpetrator be punished for the victims? Well, I think if you think that the action is there will be the guys against every non-CDM mouse, you need to read the CDM policy as well. And that that in the South African context, there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. What did the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did in South Africa was that during the revolution, when there was a apartheid government going on, and there has been an oppression against the African African origins black people, and that they also have taken action. Those who admit that they have committed these crimes, that who establish the truth, they are forgiven, and that they are given also their pardon as well. I think in the CDM policy, such elements are there when pertaining to that as well. So I would like to recommend you to read the CDM policy in details when you talk about the legal action as well. That I think there are two concerns with this policy. Some of the people think that there is a fight between the CDM and non-CDM, and that there are those who supported the CDM movement, and there are no CDM. No, it's not that if there is a black, there is white, there is light, there is dark. It's always and these oppositions always is there is a CDM. Yes, there is CDM, but there is that you cannot deny that there is no CDM. There is a CDM movement, then there are those who refuse to join the CDM movement. No CDM will be there. This is what I would like to answer as well. Okay. So we also have three questions. So we have as well that about that recognition of the CDM as well as on the giving reparations, and that so that in the CDM recognition and reparations and the CDM regulation, what were the laws and the regulations we enact? The second question is that is the CDM policy, does it fully guarantee, does it provide full guarantees to the CDM? So the third question is that rather than such kind of support ecological support during the interim period, but are there also actual support programs for survival and the existence of CDMers? Well, for that the action to be taken against the non-CDMR is practical, and that it's about the policy adopted into laws and regulations. In terms of timing, we now have Federal Democracy Charter. So we have the Federal Democracy Charter Part 1 and Part 2 drafted and adopted by the NUCC. And this Federal Democracy Charter is our political roadmap and for the establishment of the transitional constitution as well. So in the transitional constitution, along with the pillars of executive as well as the legislative, there will also be judiciary as well. In the judiciary, there will be there in the permanent constitution and transitional constitution, there will be such elements and provisions in it. I think it is important also ourselves to remind ourselves to read about the full policies, the full policy points the NUCC have made regarding the CDM. That it is important. That it also mentioned is the third point is about what we can do during the interim period as well. It is important to have a local and at the law, and this law can be used to take action against a non-CDM. So the local laws that will be enacted. Laws are fair. Laws do not have the side, but once the laws have been enacted, then it will be everyone shall be treated equally in front of the law, and that it will depend on the independent courts and justice system, so that those who will be accused of committing crime will also have the right to defense and fair trial as well. And these are the steps that we can be taken during the interim period, as stated in the policy of the NUCC, so that can be this one. And this CDM policy is a policy paper. people. It's a policy paper. It is only at the level of the policy paper, and then it is good to have the policy paper come up because that gives us some basics for thinking and discussion as well. My point is that it cannot just interpret it in our own way, and just that rather than doing whatever you want, think that the policy gives us a frame and and for right now, so there are ways to support the CDM. The ways to support the CDM is something we all need to think about because the who to do what to support the CDMers, then we all need to ask question like who is doing this revolution? We join the revolution because of the cause that we believe in, because of the truth that we adhere to. So in the same way, that being part of the revolution is about it's not about expecting something from somebody. Yes, I agree that we need a support for the CDMers, and that doesn't mean the CDMers are not going to continue the revolution because if they don't get any support for survival. No, they are there. The support is needed. I think the person who asked the question should think about how he or she can support this revolution, support the CDMR, and also to think about those other fellow people who are there as well. So I think if I know there is a CDMR in my community, in my street, I will think about how I can help the CDMR. That's a practical way of supporting the CDMR as well. There are things that we can do there in this revolution. There are practical ways we can support it as well. And if there are systematic policies or the frames to help the CDMRs or those who are supporting the revolution, that will be good. Because that will contribute to those who are in the revolution and those who are supporting the CDM movement as a whole. Thank you, Saya. So we are also taking quite a lot of time for this discussion, and we also have addressed some of the questions. So we'd like to end and wrap up our discussion here today. Thank you very much for joining us, and that I would like to invite our speakers to give closing remarks. So I would like to start with Siama. Please give your closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for giving me this chance to be able to speak to all of you. And I would like to say that CDM is not getting weaker, and CDM movement is going along together with public and various strike groups and with all the revolutionary forces. Xianongchu, please go ahead with your closing remark. Thank you very much for the audience, public, and the organizer. In order to conclude what we were saying, it is not partisan issues. It is not polarization issue. Whenever we talked about punishment, the punishment is to be talked and considered all across who you are, not necessarily based on non-CDM. And there might also be punishment needed to be happened for the CDMRs, those who committed crimes as well. And there were incidents that the teacher teaching in the liberated area got killed. So this kind of case needs to be handled as well. So then again, whenever we talked about penalization, penalization has to be based on the wrong action. And then again, there is this French Revolution, a very famous quote of Marie Antoinette, who told the public to eat cake if there were no bread. So again, based on this kind of irresponsible situation and revolution got fueled, it is not love, it is not hate that driven the revolution. The revolution, it's there for those who ask for the justice. It is not about revenge. It is not about hatred. This is something that I would like to say. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Htut. First of all, we need to have this kind of views of exchange in this kind of conversation. And thank you very much for the organizers and for all the participants. And only Facebook posts or pay and content is not enough. Whenever we talked about this specific policy, we have to think about the white, we need to think about the blacks, we need to think about the non-white and the non-black. When it comes to the color, there is not only black or white, there are all sort of colors in between as well. So the binary perception needs to be expanded as well, really for the organizing and really for seeking the mobilizing for those to be participated in the CDM. There are ways that would have much greater turnout than the sacrifices made. So this is how you build the collective strengths, understanding, and respect among everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, for your comment, for your views, for your questions. I would like to say thank you on behalf of the public goal. In order to have much effective and efficient drive for this revolution, we have this conversation in order to learn the different opinions. Having this brainstorming conversation among ourselves, we hope that this will serve as a significant contribution in this revolution. Thank you very much for all of your participation. With the solidarity among ourselves, we wish the revolution, the ends of it, with the winning as a result. And